Okay, Christy, we are specifically interested in new countries. We didn't have anything on supported employment. How to start supported employment?
You know, like when I worked in Peru or when I work in South Africa, they say, oh, we don't have much money. And I say, yeah, okay. Well, if you don't have much money, the most important thing to do is spend the little bit of money that you have on the right thing. Not waste it on things that are old, that are outdated, that do not deliver good outcomes for people with disabilities. So, yeah, it's still surprising to me that, because I have such a big mouth and I talk about it all the time, that there are people out there who've never heard anything about it. And I think, I think that's something the ILO has an important role to play in there, because they're global.
Yeah.
And, and they have those connections. And it's very, very important that they take a proactive stance on this, and I think that, the work they've done is excellent, but we really need to move it up, because there really is no reason anymore with email, with communication, with the internet. So there shouldn't be that many places who've never heard of this idea. And I think the ILO can play a very, very critical role with somewhere like the European Union Support Employment to actually strategically think about how do we get this everywhere it needs to be, because it needs to be everywhere.
So once you have a starting point in a country, and what to do further on?
Well, what I do is I go in and I'll say to them, I want at least one day, and I will do an A to Z training. So I'll start with, where did this model come from, what's its history, what are the underlying values, and then I'll talk about how do you work with the employer community, how do you do assessment in a supported employment way, what is the role of a job coach, and what skills do they need to have, and then how do you get families on board with this model. So I can do all of that pretty much in one day. And then usually what I do is say, I want to stay for a second day, and I'll meet with a group of key people, usually the people who ask me to come, and say, okay, now you heard all that, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What's the next step for Chile or Peru or wherever? And sit down with them and think with them and plan with them about how they might start this in that country. And then I'll say, send me an email. We have lots of training materials now, which is really, really good. So the European Union Support Employment Toolkit, for instance, is a fantastic resource. So we can give it to them free, for nothing, okay? We have a complete recognised training for job coaches on the internet, free. We can give it to them. So that's what I do. I'll say, let's make a plan, because one of the big issues is always more training. And, I have a full-time job. I can't be there every day all the time. But that's not a problem. So but make the plan, and usually part of the plan is two things. One is usually how are we going to train these job coaches? So we can do that easy. And the second thing is, who's going to pay for it? Particularly in developing or poorer countries. And so I talk with people about, starting small. It doesn't have to be massive. It could be just 4 or 5 people. But then when you do it, and you do it really well, put a spotlight on that, publicize that, write an article about it, invite the media to have a look at, this great new thing that's happening in your country, because it's a good news story. And so just getting people to think about how they'll make those connections, and then once you put a spotlight, and once people see that it's working, then you do 5 more people, and 5 more people, and 5 more people. And to get that right, we have to invest. We have to say, people will need support to do this. Yeah. So you can be just as isolated in a 4-bedroom group home in the community as you were in a 200-bedded institution. Yeah. Unless we put the support in and we put the focus on how do I support this individual to participate. Yeah. So get into the community, step one. Yeah. Lots more steps to be addressed.